Okay, I think we're getting pretty close. So I'll go ahead and get things started. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the last virtual Lunch and Learn for Utah Clean Energy for 2024. My name is Brandy Smith, and I'm the Communications Director for Utah Clean Energy, and we are thrilled you made time in your day to join us. First things first, I'm going to hand things over to our CEO and founder, Sarah Wright, to get us started. Sarah.
Well, thanks, Brandy. And I echo Brandy's gratitude for all of you to join us today to hear about Utah Clean Energy's year in review. And before we dig into the details, I want to start by expressing my deepest gratitude to all of you, our partners and our supporters. You all are the driving force behind everything that we achieve. And so your unwavering commitment to local climate action is what makes this work possible. So thank you. And I also have to take a moment as we reflect on this year to acknowledge Utah Clean Energy's incredible team, and you'll get to hear from a few of them today. I am inspired daily by their resilience and their dedication and their smarts. Their passion and tireless efforts, often in what may seem like daunting obstacles, are a testament to what can be accomplished when we stay true to our shared vision, our values, and our mission. And we have taken important steps to transform our energy system and our energy future, and towards creating a healthy climate. And you're going to hear about some of that today. But as you all know, I would be remiss not to acknowledge that as we look ahead, the work before us is going to be challenging. But I can assure you that Utah Clean Energy remains steadfast to our mission. We're going in with our eyes wide open, and we're leaning into the knowledge that getting it right on climate is not only critical, but the steps to address climate will make our lives better from day one. And so I'm not here to say that the future isn't without obstacles, but we can and we will embolden even stronger climate champions, tell more inspiring stories, and scale the solutions at a faster pace. And in doing so, we'll make the world healthier, more equitable, and more prosperous for everyone. And it's really the work with you. So thank you for being on this journey with us. And to that end, I'm going to turn things back over to Brandy, and she'll get this year in review rolling. So thank you all for being here.
Well said, and thank you, Sarah. So over the next hour, we're going to be digging into what is yet another year of progress in our shared vision of a healthier climate and cleaner air for all of Utah. And if you don't know Utah Clean Energy, or if you know Utah Clean Energy, I should say, you know that our team is laser focused on achieving a pollution-free future for Utah. And that means pollution-free homes, pollution-free transportation, pollution-free electricity, and to make all those things happen, making Utah a climate leader. The truth is, getting there, it takes a wide range of innovative programs. We're talking smart policies, really high-level partnerships, more analysis and data and wonky graphs than I will ever share with you. So today, what I have asked my colleagues to do is to pick one story from the past year that reflects the progress within each of these areas, and then to give a glimpse into what we've got in store for 2025. Full disclosure, this is by no means a full recap, but it is a snapshot of the incredible work happening across our team and with our partners and the impacts that work is having here in Utah. So we're going to start things off with my friend and colleague, Kevin Emerson, who is the Director of Building Efficiency and Decarbonization at Utah Clean Energy. He's going to tell you a little bit about how we're ensuring our homes and our buildings in Utah are built climate friendly from the get-go. So take it over, Kevin.
Randy. Hi, everybody, and thank you everyone for joining us today. As Randy said, I'm Kevin Emerson. I lead our buildings work. So when people think about transformative climate solutions, the images that often come to mind are wind farms, solar panels, electric vehicles, and the like. And these are all essential and a fundamental part of the transition. But we can't forget the myriad things that we can do to make sure that our homes and buildings pull their weight in the clean energy transformation. I know all too well that insulation, high performance heat pumps, and building controls aren't necessarily the kinds of clean energy solutions that get people out of their seats and cheering. But remember that reducing the whopping 40% of global climate emissions comes from our built environment is at the heart of better air quality and a healthy climate. And that's why I am proudly Utah Clean Energy's energy efficiency cheerleader. 2024 was a big year for transforming our built environment to be more efficient and less polluting. Our team hosted two commercial developer sustainability summits with Gardner Group. We convened a number of stakeholder meetings and engaged close to 400 community members.
I'm going to interrupt you, Kevin.
Program.
I'm sorry, your audio is breaking up just a smidge. So I'm going to have you lean into your mic. I'll let you know if it can
get closer. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that, everybody. So as I was saying, our team has been busy in 2024 with hosting two commercial developer sustainability summits. We convened stakeholder meetings and engaged close to 400 community members, both with the focus of sharing ideas and recommendations to the state of Utah as they develop their home energy rebates program. We've also been busy advocating and shaping utility efficiency programs and advocating that Rocky Mountain Power shift the way they design their outreach strategies so they can more effectively reach underserved and marginalized community members. And of course, we also moved into the Climate Innovation Center, our office headquarters and showcase building that paints a picture of what's possible and what a zero emission building and zero emission future can look like. But if I had to pick one story from the past year that highlights how we're making big impacts on reducing pollution, it would be our partnerships with three leading builders who are stepping up to explore how they can be part of the zero emission future. So starting at the very beginning of 2024, we launched our Low and Zero Emission Housing Innovation Grant Initiative with support from the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity. Through this project, Garbutt Homes, Ivory Homes, and Sego Homes received mini grants and technical support to construct three super efficient and emission-free homes. And these showcase the country's highest standards for energy efficiency and all-electric construction. And while these three builders have different past experiences with super efficient all-electric construction, they all stepped up in their own ways to innovate and test new construction methods and technologies. Than just the lessons learned these builders will impact countless future homes in Utah. We're learning about builders' experiences and developing a resource toolkit that we'll use to educate other builders about how to build emission-free homes cost-effectively. Simply put, these first three homes are the catalyst for transforming Utah's new construction sector. Already, 12 other builders have received technical and design assistance to learn how to adapt their construction practices to emission-free homes. And fun fact, two of these homes are located out in Daybreak and are model homes that will be open to the public to tour for the next 2 years. So I really encourage you to visit these homes and see what emission-free homes can look like. And we'll share more information about how to visit these homes in a follow-up email to attendees. Moving forward on this initiative, we'll be working with Utah's residential construction industry to help other builders adopt zero-emission design and construction practices. And looking ahead to 25, we have our work cut out for us with some exciting things happening. In addition to continuing the work on the project that I just mentioned, I want to tell you about two of our top priorities for 2025. First, we get asked about the Utah Home Energy Rebates Program at least a few times a week, and rightfully so. It's such an important opportunity. So as a refresher, Utah was allocated just over $100 million to design and launch income-qualified rebate programs for home efficiency upgrades and electric appliances and electrification improvements. This program will be led by the Utah Office of Energy Development with funding from the Inflation Reduction Act. It'll be administered by the Department of Energy. And our focus is working with the state of Utah, the state's program implementer, and other key stakeholders to help make sure this program gets launched as soon as possible. And it's designed in a way to reach as many families as possible. So be on the lookout early next year for information from us about when this program would be launched based on what we're learning from the state. The second initiative that I want to tell you about is one that will kick off in 2025, and it's one of the biggest efforts that Utah Clean Energy has been involved in. It's a multi-state collaborative that will be empowering builders to transition to zero-emission construction practices for homes and buildings. The project will span 4 states, 5 local governments, and the focus is designing and implementing what we're calling voluntary zero-emission stretch codes. And these will be implemented by local municipalities across the Intermountain region. The stretch codes are going to be incentivizing the construction of zero-emission buildings that will be supporting our air quality, reducing and lowering costs for families and businesses while enhancing resilience. This project is just one of 25 projects nationwide selected by the U.S. Department of Energy through their RICI funding. If you have questions, I can tell you what that acronym means later. And that was funding approved by under the bipartisan infrastructure. Our team is thrilled to get started on this work. So we have our work cut out for us when we have a lot to look forward to in 2025 on the buildings front. And with that, I'm going to wrap up and hand it over to my colleague, Jennifer.
Okay, mute button off. Thank you, Kevin. My name is Jennifer Eden, and I am a Senior Clean Energy Associate at Utah Clean Energy. Utah Clean Energy has been working to unlock Utah's renewable energy potential for more than 20 years. This involves working with our electric utilities, with our regulators, our legislators, and our communities. And this goes from energy use on the largest scale of our regional utilities all the way down to our individual actions. My colleague Logan will talk to you about our electricity system writ large, while I will speak with you about our efforts to make solar available across our state and communities. I had the good fortune to be able to afford to put solar on my home in 2010, and it's been literally, pun intended, to be able to power my family's lives from the sun that shines on our roof. However, that shouldn't only be available to those of us who can afford it, when in fact the impact can be that much greater for people who can't afford it, people for whom actually paying their electricity bills is a true burden, people whose communities are plagued by health impacts from air pollution, who will experience the greatest impacts from a changing climate. So breaking down barriers to solar adoption has become the focal point of my work at Utah Clean Energy. And that is why my top win for 2024 is the Salt Lake Solar Powered Communities Project, which is a project we are doing with Salt Lake City's Department of Sustainability. It's not hard to imagine what the barriers are to solar adoption, especially for lower income community members. Trust is a big one. People have experienced predatory behavior and they don't trust the solar industry. Knowledge of the technology and the time to explore it are certainly not the highest priority of a business for whom just making their business successful is the biggest priority. And then there's always money, and money is a hard barrier to overcome. Utah Clean Energy is a small mission-driven organization. We can build trusting relationships and we can share energy expertise, but overcoming the barrier to actually paying for a solar system is something else entirely. And we were fortunate enough to receive a grant from the Urban Sustainability Directors Network, along with Salt Lake City's Sustainability Department, to remove those financial barriers for 3 to 5 businesses on Salt Lake City's west side. Over the past year, we've been doing just that. And we have 3 businesses where solar systems are installed, 2 more who are in the process. And I just want to tell you about a couple of those. In the picture here is M&K Automotive, which is on 1700 South on the west side of Salt Lake. They're a small family-run automotive business. They've been there for, I don't know, some 30 years. We put solar on their roof in February of 2024, and their bills went from a high of $250 a month to $10 a month, which, as you can see on their smiling faces, is a true win for their business. It allows them to invest more in the business itself, in building that business, and in their employees. And furthermore, as electricity costs go up, which they surely will, and Logan will tell you more about that, the value of their solar resource will only increase. Another business that we've worked with is actually two businesses owned by these two fine gentlemen, Eric on the left and Isaac on the right. This is a building that houses Salt Lake Barber Company on one side and Culture Coffee on the other. This was built on in the Fair Park neighborhood, and all of their surrounding neighbors are residential homes. This is a unique project from a solar perspective in that they rent their business, they rent their location from a local nonprofit called NeighborWorks Salt Lake. And typically, when a landlord rents to a tenant and the tenant pays the electricity bills, the landlord doesn't have an incentive to invest in solar electricity. But in this case, NeighborWorks wanted to see this business succeed, and they wanted to build a resilience hub for their community. And so they agreed to own the solar system and to take advantage of tax credits in order to pay for it, in addition to our grant, in order to build that sense of community. So we have installed solar panels as well as battery storage on the roof of this building. The system was operational in late October, and it is designed to provide the majority of their electricity use, as well as provide battery backup in the case of an outage. This will not only provide the businesses the ability to remain operational, but it will provide their community with a place to get warm, stay cool, drink some coffee, and plug in their phone while visiting with their neighbors and community. This kind of story is what builds resources within a community. It builds a sense of well-being. And it's also been shown over and over again that where solar is installed, more solar is installed. And you can see, just looking at the faces of Eric and Isaac, that these men are storytellers. And as they cut their clients' hair, they're going to be telling them what it has meant for their business to go solar, what it's meant for their community, what the hurdles were, and there were some hurdles, and how other people can do just that. Now we're moving forward, and from installing just solar on 3 to 5 businesses, we're moving to benefit 10,000 households across Utah with the cost savings of solar. This is a program called Solar for All, funded by the federal government as part of the Inflation Reduction Act. Utah's Office of Energy Development is the lead applicant, and we have been their partner from the early stages of the application process. Utah was awarded $62 million to install solar across the state. This will be on single-family homes, multifamily affordable housing, community scale solar arrays, serving urban, suburban, rural, tribal residents across our state. Our hope is to go into every corner of the state, providing education, providing resource building, building jobs, and building solar resources across our state. This is going to be challenging, but the reality is, once we succeed, which we have every intention of succeeding, we will have changed the solar landscape across our state. building resources where they haven't been before, and building a sense of well-being and goodwill across our state. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Logan to tell you more about our electricity sector.
And just before Logan begins, I just want to chime in to say, keep those questions in the chat coming. We are going to save room at the end to answer all of your questions with our experts. So sorry about that. Thanks, Logan. Go right ahead.
Thanks, Jennifer, for that introduction. My name is Logan Mitchell. I'm the climate scientist and energy analyst with Utah Clean Energy. The big story with our electricity sector this year is that we've really been facing headwinds in a number of different ways. In 2023, we made a lot of progress, and through the years, our engagement in really complex utility dockets and with legislature and the state on energy policy, we've had a lot of successes. And we can see this year there actually were a number of clean energy projects that were brought online, new solar projects that were opened. We had several ribbon cuttings, some important advances with geothermal and energy storage. But there are a number of big things that have gotten off track, and this year has really been a story of backsliding with the energy sector. The really big one was that in 2023, our utility, Rocky Mountain Power, they came out with their integrated resource plan, their IRP. And it had a lot of really good stuff that we really liked in it. And then this year they issued their IRP update. And it had an enormous amount of backsliding. So a lot of the clean energy that we were really excited about have all been scaled back. In this latest plan, solar has been scaled back by about 68%. Battery storage has been scaled back by about 79%. A big portion of our build out of wind energy has been delayed, pushed back by 4 years. And to make up for that, the utility is planning to keep coal plants online for much longer and get a lot more of our energy from coal plants. So this is an enormous step back. And then on top of that, the next big thing was right after issuing this plan about all of this backsliding on clean energy, they issued their proposal for a significant increase in electricity rates. And we've been digging into this rate case and understanding the dynamics at play and all the factors that are driving this. And what has become really clear is that the biggest drivers of this increasing rate is fuel prices and climate change. And to put that into context a little bit, it's really the coal prices. Our coal has gotten really expensive after one of our major coal mines has caught on fire. And then the war in Ukraine has really increased natural gas prices. And so we're still having to pay for those volatile fossil fuel prices. And then the climate change component of it is the climate has warmed and we're now seeing more intense and larger wildfires. And our utility has been involved in some of those wildfires and now facing a lot of legal liability as well as efforts to harden the grid for future wildfires, to prevent future wildfires. So what's really become clear is that we're talking about renewable resources now in terms of zero fuel cost resources. With really volatile fossil fuel prices, having these zero fuel cost resources are incredibly important on the grid. And also our involvement in regional markets, being able to trade power back and forth and access the cheapest kinds of power that's available. They save money and also reduce our emissions and therefore support healthier climate and healthier communities. And we want to, building these new things, this new clean energy, this transmission and storage, this really represents a no regrets near-term path for Utah's future. And that's something that we're working towards in this rate case and coming up next year in the 2025 IRP, state policy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I'll just put a a note to stay tuned. We'll be giving regular updates about the progress of the rate case. And it should be decided in late April 2025. And so that's what I had. That was the big story that I wanted to talk about. And now I'll pass it over to my colleague, Kelby.
Awesome. Thanks, Logan. Hi, everyone. My name is Kelby Gopal. I'm a Senior Associate for Electrification here at Utah Clean Energy, and I lead our transportation work. And as we've been presenting, I have noticed a little bit of a theme. Each of us has started our presentation off with talking about why the area that we're working in is the most important for a healthy climate. And not that it's a competition, but the transportation sector is the largest source of greenhouse gas emissions in the US. So we have a lot of work to do there, especially that's top of mind on days like today when you look outside and you can see the smog that we're dealing with. But the good news is that there are a ton of solutions that we have at our disposal to address this challenge. Electric vehicles are a big focus of our work at Utah Clean Energy and are at the top of that list of available solutions to us. In past years, we have helped bring EV charging to multifamily housing. We've worked to protect EV incentives, and we've advocated for fair electric vehicle policies. And in 2024, one of the things I'm most excited about is our focus on electrifying our fleets. We have a good reason for prioritizing this. We know that medium and heavy duty vehicles and fleet vehicles have an outsized impact on our air quality. So my highlight for 2024 is really all about partnerships in this space, and I'm excited to tell you a little bit about the work that we've been doing with 4 really awesome fleet owners. So when we're talking about tackling emissions from fleets, we know that information is power. To help businesses make this switch, we knew we needed more real-world examples. So we spent the better part of the first part of this year reaching out to a lot of different local businesses to see who is interested in fleet electrification and who might be willing to troubleshoot that opportunity. In the end, for very different businesses, Intermountain Healthcare, Ski Butlers, Red Barn Academy, and Rico Brand have opted to receive a fleet electrification analysis to see if switching their fleets is even feasible. We know that switching a fleet to electric is not as easy as changing a tire. There are a lot of factors to consider, including the obvious things like charging and range. But there are also some really specific questions that we want to answer. Will Ski Butlers be able to charge in ultra cold weather? Can Rico guarantee that their food products are delivered on time and fresh with the right delivery vehicles? What about the heavy duty moving vehicles at Red Barn or the patient shuttles at IHC? To answer these questions, in part from some support from the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity, we have teamed up with Merge Electric Fleet Solutions, and they are doing some exciting work using telematics data from each fleet to provide an in-depth look at what the costs and benefits are with fleet electrification for each of these businesses. And just to pause for definitions, when I say telematics, this is essentially a method of fleet tracking using devices that are installed in vehicles that provide real-world information on each of the vehicles and what they're doing over a set period of time. So right now, Merge, our partner, is deep into this real-world data, and we've been really enjoying the reports that we've been getting so far. The information we have so far is fairly preliminary, but we are already learning a lot. For example, something really, really exciting is that Ski Butlers has learned that electric delivery vans can actually do what they need to do in cold weather to keep their business and their fleet operations running, which is really, really awesome. We've also learned that they have some work to do on the charging front to find some creative solutions for charging in tight spaces and shared parking areas. So as the data comes in, each of these fleets will be able to answer questions about whether or not they can switch to electric and if it will benefit their business. There are a lot of what ifs, and electrification is complex. But like I said before, information is power. Having these real world examples right here in Utah will not only help advocates like our team know how to better support electrification, but will also empower other fleets to follow. And that's really what I'm most excited about. More electric fleet vehicles means fewer emissions, which means more breathable air and better public health. So looking ahead at 2025, here's what's around the corner. The good news is that over the past year, there has been an influx of funding to support transportation electrification. The bad news is that we are concerned that some federal incentives will be at risk in the upcoming year. Our focus is on supporting the implementation of various programs happening here in Utah and also safeguarding new and existing opportunities. So I want to highlight just a few things. There have been some really strong efforts from various state agencies to bring funding here to Utah, and I just wanted to point out a few of those really exciting funding opportunities. So earlier this year, the EPA awarded the Department of Environmental Quality $74 million for what's called the Beehive Emissions Reduction Plan, or BERP. This is a really exciting opportunity to reduce emissions statewide in multiple industries, but for my purposes today, I want to just highlight and emphasize that a lot of the proposed programs in the BERP are transportation related. This includes incentives for passenger vehicles, medium and heavy duty fleet vehicles, fleet charging infrastructure, expanded access to charging in multifamily housing, electric buses. Really, almost every corner of our transportation sector has the potential to get a really cool electric boost from this funding. So I'm super excited about this program and the opportunity it will bring the partners that we're working with. Moving on to the Clean Ports program, the Utah Inland Port Authority and Department of Environmental Quality were recently awarded $112 million through the EPA's Clean Ports program. That is a massive investment in air quality solutions that will impact our community in a really meaningful way. The funding it will be used to reduce emissions by transitioning diesel equipment in and around the port to electric technologies like electric cargo equipment, electric trucks, and switcher locomotives. And then last but not least is the Utah Clean Truck Incentive Program. Earlier this year, we helped to secure state funding with the Utah Department of Transportation and DAQ for incentives for zero emission trucks. This is a $1 million investment in a program that will offer specific incentives for electric, medium, and heavy duty trucks. And I'm really excited to see how that benefits the fleets that we're working with and helps to showcase how meaningful certain incentives can be to push electrification forward. So I'm going to wrap up, and I don't want to sugarcoat things. The reality is that the market may slow down in response to what's happening at the federal level, but we know that the writing is on the wall. Electric vehicles really are still the future. And most importantly, EVs are a necessary part of our fight against climate change and bad air. I've highlighted some of the exciting investments in the EV space, as well as the work that we're doing right here in Utah that will keep us moving towards a cleaner and more equitable transportation sector. But I'm super excited about the work that we have ahead of us, not just to support fleets, but the work that we're also doing to expand access to EV charging for all communities and opportunities to advocate for incentives and pro-EV policies. So with that, I will turn things over to my colleague, Josh. Thank you.
Thanks, Kelby. Thanks, everyone, for being here today. My name is Josh Kraft, and I am the Director of Government Relations for Utah Clean Energy. And I feel really blessed to be working with this amazing team. I can't state how I get the easy job because everyone here is working so hard in the details of all the programs so we can move forward all those wonky details, bringing people together. It's my job to reach out to policymakers and to leaders here to help that work going. We know that, and we feel deeply at Utah Clean Energy that leadership on climate, particularly state leadership, is foundational to our success. We need, and this is going to be more important, as I think everyone is aware, in the next 2 to 4 years, as we're going from a shift from the Biden administration to a Trump administration. But at the same time, I think I want to say we're keenly aware, and we feel deeply that people want to have positive conversations about the future for their kids. healthier communities now. And bringing together leaders, working with leaders, and having state and local leadership on climate is something that can happen and is essential that it does happen. Sorry, there's a little bit of an echo. And I wanted to say one of the things I'm really pleased about are some of the conversations that we had and we helped to convene throughout the previous year under the banner of the Climate and Clean Air Compact, an initiative that we have worked on among almost 200 Utah leaders to support positive solutions and discussions around climate change. You'll see the picture on the top is a forum that we held with now Senator John Curtis, Caroline Gleich, and Benji Backer, who was a young right-leaning environmental leader here at the Alta Club in October, talking about how we can bridge divides and find innovative, pragmatic solutions on climate change. So it was wonderful to see a range of perspectives coming together in Utah, highlighting the role that we have to play in climate leadership. The picture on the bottom is of Dr. Catherine Hayhoe of the Nature Conservancy, a wonderful voice, also happens to be an evangelical Christian who came here in Utah for the Conservative Climate Summit, the third annual Conservative Climate Summit that Congressman Curtis has been convening to talk through both the climate challenge and the hope that we have. And so those are things that we are seeing, conversations that we are having about the role that we have and the importance of state leadership. I wanted to highlight two things in terms of the coming year where we know that Utah has to lead and we feel that we can lead. The first is our governor has stepped into the fray to talk about electricity. He has announced Operation Gigawatt, and that's a plan, an ambitious goal of doubling Utah's energy production by 2030. That's right now, as we're talking about 5 years from today. Given the low cost of clean energy, solar, wind, geothermal, batteries, and transmission, energy efficiency, and distributed solar, we need to be taking advantage of that resource. And Utah is fortunate to have an abundance of it. This is not going to be an easy discussion. Logan has highlighted some of the challenges that we have with PacifiCorp and rising rates. We also know that from the last year that the legislature is still working on how we work through the current resources that we have and bring on new ones. But we have such an opportunity here to tap those resources and to educate our leaders that the only way to move forward and move forward quickly is with cleaner resources that we can deploy right here in our community. So that's going to be a major focus of ours and a major opportunity we're going to share more about. The second piece that I wanted to highlight is and it says 2030, but it's the 2034 Winter Olympic and Paralympic Games. I'm sorry that's my error. We're excited that Utah has received the bid and will be moving forward to be the host of those games in a decade. But that's an opportunity for Utah here and our leaders right here along the Wasatch Front to be planning for a sustainable future. Reducing emissions, addressing climate change, bringing on clean energy is a core part of that bid, is what we submitted. And we were pleased to have had a role in shaping some of the bid questionnaire and documents and laying out a goal of a 70% reduction in emissions below 2018 levels as part of the games. So the work for the next decade is to be working with leaders locally at the state to transform our infrastructure, to bring online cleaner transportation, to expand our transit system, to retrofit our buildings, including those buildings that will be hosting the games, and then also our electricity system. So that's a major opportunity, an exciting one, and one that we will be sharing more about with you. Next slide. The work is not only at the state level. The other piece of the work is Utah does have an important role to play at the national level. Governor Cox the other day, I was at an event with him, and he talked about how when things happen in Utah, they get shared nationally. That may be a bit Utah-centric than it needs to be, but at the same time, like we have a role to play nationally in shaping the conversation. The first way my colleagues have done this, are doing this amazing work to leverage the impact of federal funding that we have. There's been some questions in the chat, I know, but we do have, as of this point, we have over $300 million for climate and clean energy programs. That, and in addition to some of the clean energy tax credits that were passed as part of the Inflation Reduction Act and the bipartisan infrastructure law, our understanding is that the impact of that goes far beyond just those numbers. There's at least $4.5 billion in private investments that are coming to Utah, leveraging those. Those dollars translate into higher performance homes and buildings, solar powered businesses, utility scale solar and battery arrangements, cleaner transportation, and importantly, as Jen was particularly highlighting, new projects that reduce our energy cost burdens in our rural and tribal communities. So the work is just getting started. We are going to fight hard to make sure that whatever dollars are dedicated and obligated come to Utah. But the other important place is our congressional delegation has an important role to play here. And I'll just wrap by saying Senator John Curtis has just elected on a climate platform, someone who cares deeply and has pulled together folks on a bipartisan basis to work on these challenges. But both Senator Mike Lee, now chair of the Senate Energy and Natural Resources Committee, and Congressman Blake Moore, who has a key role in the powerful House Wages and Means Committee, have a really important role to play in the discussions about the tax package and the federal tax credits in the coming Congress. We need those and many of those to continue. They're good for the climate and clean energy, but they are also good for Utah. They are bringing projects, dollars, and benefits to communities here. A recent study from the organization E2 found that 85% of the funds that have been deployed from the Inflation Reduction Act are going to red or Republican-leaning districts, including here in Utah. And then we expect there to be some really intense debates early in the year in the U.S. House and the U.S. Senate about the future of the Inflation Reduction Act. We are positive that a lot of that will not be repealed, but will be refined. But we here have an important role in letting our members know about those benefits, and that we need to keep those flowing, not only for climate and air quality, but also for our economy. So thank you. And I'm going to pass things over to Brandy to round us out.
Thank you so much, Josh. Thank you, Jennifer and Kelby and Kevin and Logan and Sarah for today and for your work year round. It's incredible. I think it's pretty clear from the stories you've heard today that any progress we make is a direct result of the partnerships that we form. And that's where all of you come in. That's where our larger community comes in. I invite you to get more involved with Utah Clean Energy over the coming year. And there's so many ways to do that. As Josh mentioned, we need our elected leaders to know that Utahns have their back, and we want to see climate policy move forward. If you have not already, I really encourage you to sign up for our newsletter. It has local information, and during the session, Josh sends out a weekly roundup of what's happening with clean air, clean energy, air quality, climate legislation that impacts all of our lives. So it's a great way to stay in the know on what's happening here locally. And our development director, Erica Markin, couldn't be here today, but she would just have my head if I did not mention that Utah Clean Energy, right now we are, a donor-funded organization. So this work is made possible with the support of people like you. And right now we have a generous matching grant from the John C. Kish Foundation, up to $50,000. Your gift will be doubled now through December 31st. So it's self-serving, I know, but that is a really great way to support local climate solutions. So with that, I'm going to unshare my screen, and I'm going to dig into some of the awesome questions that you've been posting. I'm just going to go through them. If we don't get to your questions, we will follow up with more information, most definitely. But bear with me while I unshare. That should be right, I think. Is everybody seeing everybody else's face? Okay, so I want to start with the first question. This, I think, is going to be a question for Jennifer and or Logan. Mark asked, what is being done in Utah to promote or accelerate the use of storage, battery, thermal, and using PV generated electricity in general?
I'll start in on that. So storage in Utah is supported fairly well. Rocky Mountain Power, our major utility, has said to us specifically if we could put storage on every solar installation in the state, we would. They have a generous battery program where they provide an upfront rebate and then an annual benefit for, I think, the first 4 years, that has been getting more and more uptake. I think they have 1,500, 2,000 customers using that program now. And it's a fairly unique program in which they only utilize the batteries for what they call frequency response, which is up to 5 minutes at a time. So the customer really doesn't notice their battery being discharged by the utility. So that's an opportunity. And Rocky Mountain Power also, when they install solar, and they have some solar installations, they prioritize adding batteries to that resource. It makes the value of the energy that is generated, they say it increases the value of that energy by 3 to 4 times. So it really changes a resource that they see as a potential draw on their system to a benefit. So that is something that our utility recognizes. And I just, battery technology is on the move. There's more and more available resources, very cool technologies, things that avoid some of the risks of lithium. And so that's a really vibrant, changing market. And the state, it does have investments in that, and also some local industry around batteries.
Thank you, Jennifer. Glenn had an interesting question. I think this one's probably for you, Josh, but if I'm wrong, let me know. How will changes on the national administration affect IRA related projects? Specifically, are any of these funds locked in?
Good question. And so President-elect Trump and some folks in his administration have discussed the idea of either repealing or clawing back some existing funds that were authorized as part of the Inflation Reduction Act. And everyone should know that there are two parts to this. There's the tax credits and there are grants. And so there's the Congress will be the folks for the most part are the ones who will be having to decide the future of the tax credits. And those are going to happen in the next Congress. I hope and expect that a lot of those will continue. Again, a lot of that money is coming to Republican-leaning districts across the country, particularly those who have been involved in batteries and AV manufacturing, and increasingly some solar manufacturing here. But we don't know. The place where the incoming administration has a lot more discretion is in determining the future of some of the grant programs. A lot of funds that have been either, and this is a little bit technical and we're still learning, but that have been obligated or awarded are safe, or at least they are pretty darn safe. So that is programs where funding is flowing, or the state or another entity has a contract or has received a disbursement of funds. There are some programs, including the Home Energy Rebate Program, where the funds for some states like ours have not yet been awarded. And so that is definitely an uncertainty there. I'm not sure, for example, Kelby mentioned the Inland Port Grant. That is a fairly large grant. I am pretty confident that we're going to receive that, but that was just awarded pretty close to the election, so I don't know its status. So there definitely is some uncertainty. The administration has talked about doing some pretty dramatic things like impounding money that may already be in effect in the works from an agency, that would be pretty unlikely and would have a pretty big impact on more conservative leaning states as well as sort of blue leaning states. So I will have to just watch for the moment. We are presuming that all the work that we are involved in that we discussed today is going to move forward. And we'll make sure to let folks know and let you know how you can help if we're hearing otherwise.
Thank you, Josh.
I don't know if anyone else, just to make sure, if anyone else wants to add from our team, wants to add any color there, but we can follow up, and it's a really important question.
Awesome.
Hi,
Thank
everyone.
you.
My name is Max Becker, and I am Senior Associate for Advancing Federal Climate Opportunities here at Utah Clean Energy with my wonderful colleagues. I am not on camera because I am in the airport in Washington, D.C., coming back from DOE conference Deploy 24. I got the chance to talk to our congressional delegation, and we are very lucky that we have folks representing us in Congress that are pragmatic and want to understand how this sort of funding, this grant work, and the clean energy economy are helping individuals across the state. And we are working so hard to show the efficacy of these projects, how incredibly impactful they are to our air quality, to our economy, to people's lives, maintaining, folks in the energy communities that have traditionally provided us power through coal, that are now moving towards wind and towards solar, towards geothermal, towards nuclear, bringing down parts of the state, the energy costs where, folks on tribal lands are paying the most. They want to see in their districts those costs coming down. So, we need to keep sharing these stories, and everyone on the call, using their voices to spread to those congressional members, because they want to hear about it. And if they see the positive effects of that here in Utah, they're going to fight for what works for Utahns. So that was the message that I'm sort of bringing back, which, I hope brings a little bit of hope as we move towards a new administration, that, hopefully they take a pragmatic approach to this as well. So just wanted to say that, and, here to answer any other questions.
That's really good to hear, Max. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm hoping to get to a few more questions before we have to wrap at 1. Logan, I know you've got some background on this. There's a great question from Glenn. He's asking about the Fervo project. He saw that Fervo is approved for 2 gigawatts. He's wondering, how far is that out, and how much potential do you think geothermal power can have in Utah?
Yeah, I think geothermal has enormous potential here in Utah. So far, they've actually only been approved to develop and have contracts for 400 megawatts. And all of that 400 megawatts has been allocated, they have agreements in place with utilities in California, actually. So none of that power is currently slated to be used in Utah. The first phase of that project should be up and running by 2026, and then it should be fully online by 2028. But what Fervo has determined so far is that where they are, there's enormous, much more potential for more development there, up to 2 gigawatts. And right now there's conversations about a new transmission line that has kind of been in the works for a while, but is moving forward. They're talking about seeing if they could, modify the track of that transmission line so that we can take more advantage of the geothermal resource where Fervo is in Utah. So those conversations are really just getting started, but that there's potential there of being able to utilize that. And of course, there's more geothermal potential across the state. And hopefully we could see some of that being developed for the benefit of our state and our utility, because, realistically, we're seeing a lot of cost advances in that technology, and it has enormous potential for the medium term. So kind of towards the end of the decade to really develop and be a firm, dispatchable, zero carbon emission, zero emission energy resource that really is essential to our future. And, you know, this technology, I think, has enormous potential if it's able to scale up in a timely way. And if it gets the policy support and the support from, you know, the commercial sector, you know, we could, the next decade has the potential to be the geothermal decade. And right now, Utah is at the epicenter of this new technology development, and it's one of the most exciting things going on in terms of energy markets, really in the world. And it's, you know, we're right at the center of it, so it's really exciting.
Geothermal decade. I love that, Logan. Thank you. Let's switch gears for a minute. We have just a couple more minutes left. So I'd love to, Kelby, I'd love to answer Isaac's question. He's talking about the inland port. He's wondering if the funding that you mentioned will be spent on existing warehouse operations or planned operations at proposed new warehouses in the ports across Utah.
Yeah, this is a really good question, and I can put a link in the chat if you want to read more about it. But essentially, the Clean Ports funding is in two buckets, about 110 million to the Department of Environmental Quality, and that 110 million will be focused on essentially technology deployment at the Union Pacific Salt Lake City Intermodal Hub, which is in like Northwest Salt Lake. So that technology deployment, the focus of that funding is about transitioning old diesel equipment to new electric technologies in that specific at that specific location. And then the other bucket of funding is the $2.5 million that is awarded by the Clean Ports Program to the Utah Inland Port Authority that will be used alongside the 110 million, basically do an emissions inventory and then also be used for some operational planning purposes. To give a better understanding of what the impact of these operations in the intermodal hub are, and then identify strategies for reducing those emissions. So it's a little bit of planning, a lot of technology deployment, and it is focused on that Northwest region at Union Pacific's intermodal hub.
Got it. Thank you. I want to be respectful of everybody's time. I know we did not get to all the questions in the chat, but I have taken note of all of them, and we'll try to follow up with you after this webinar to answer any questions that we didn't get to. But in the meantime, I just want to take our last few seconds to thank the entire Utah Clean Energy team. I am daily impressed by my colleagues, impressed/intimidated by their expertise, their hard work, and also a big thank you to everybody who joined us today, to all of our supporters, to all of our partners. It can't be said enough. This work is made possible because of people like you. So thank you for continuing to show up and for all you do. With that, I'm going to close out this virtual Lunch and Learn and wish all of you a very great day and happy holidays. Thanks all.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.